Hello everyone, John here. Hopefully everyone is doing well. Sorry. Hopefully you guys have gotten to enjoy the really nice weather. And I do really appreciate the positive feedback I have received from the Budgeting Basics series. It's certainly my hope that you guys would get some value out of it, and it does sound like some of you are. So that's good. I thought we'd take a step back tonight from the fictional series and talk about something a little bit more topical. We actually have two topics I want to cover. Both that I think could be their own segments, but I think we'll just touch on them briefly. The first is the use of credit cards, and the other is the value of higher education. So these are both very contentious, but I think it'd be good to talk about. So are they good or bad? Well, I've already explained that I am a Dave Ramsey devotee. And if you know anything about Dave, the number one personality trait that most people who don't know about him is that he's very much against credit cards. Credit cards are bad, they're evil, you should never get one. And I'm kind of in the middle on that, because between yes, you should have one, or no, you shouldn't. So to start, I actually have two credit cards. One is a gas-only credit card. You can only use it at the pump. The other one is just your regular credit card issued by my bank that I pay off. And both of them I pay off at the end of every month. So who should get one and when? I would recommend, if you're 18 or 20, you should only have a gas-only credit card. You know, the major banks that are servicing it are gonna be reporting your payment activity to the major credit bureaus. You know, you're gonna be able to build credit that way. It's not a temptation because it's sitting in your wallet. There's only so much damage you can do with it. So, and because you don't have a Visa or MasterCard label on it, you can only use it at a gas station. It's kind of nice in that regard, and it's stuff you're gonna buy anyway. You need to buy that. So I would definitely recommend that. I would personally say, regardless of your prior spending habits with credit cards, if you have them and you're trying to get out of debt, and again, the gas credit card's an exception, I would cut them up. Honestly, while you're getting out of debt, just get rid of them, because they are very tempting to use, and they're designed that way. That's not an accident. The credit card companies, the major banks, medium banks, they have very smart people working in their marketing departments, and they want you to swipe. And by the way, I should talk about how credit card companies make their money. It's in three different ways. One is called interchange. Each time, and this one actually applies to both debit and credit cards. So the Visa or MasterCard label you see on your credit and debit card, each time you swipe that, the bank is actually getting paid for each swipe. So they are incentivized. They want you to buy as much as possible, and fragment it as much as possible. So if you go into a convenience store, or if you go buy gas with your regular credit card and then go in and buy a soda, that's even better. That's ideally how the credit card companies would want to see the transactions, because each swipe is making them money. It's making the bank money. The next one only applies to what is called revolvers. Those are people who do not pay their balance off in full at the end of each month. So that puts them in a revolving status, and they have to pay interest. And it's usually a pretty high amount depending on your credit. Anywhere from 18% all the way up to 30+%. It's a lot, and they make a lot of money doing that. Especially if you want to Google something very interesting, Google what the federal funds rate is. That is what the money it costs for banks to borrow from each other. And then they're charging you that 18 to 30%. It's very much, and you'll understand that's the retail business of banking. And they borrow money at a supremely cheap rate, and then they're able to borrow it presumably to their revolving customers at a very high interest rate. So, and the third one is obviously fees. Overdraft fees, that's more credit cards, or excuse me, debit cards. Credit cards is your late fees. Most banks have done away with foreign transaction fees, but there's a lot of other fees that banks can charge and oftentimes do. So yeah. Of course, anyone over 18 is eligible for a credit card in the United States. Like I mentioned, I strongly recommend, while you're getting out of debt, gas-only credit card. Don't get a regular credit card. It's just too tempting, and your mission is to pay down that debt. When you do get out of debt, you do get a regular credit card. There are certain fraud protections. Something people kind of forget, and I should note this. I actually did work for a bank a few years ago in their credit card department, doing customer service. A lot of people forget that they're borrowing the bank's money, so they would be upset when they didn't get, they requested a credit limit and the bank said no, like, how could you do this? I've had this is my credit card, it has my name on it. It's, number one, it's a piece of plastic. Let's just take it down a few notches. It's a piece of plastic with the bank's label on it, a bank's logo on it. Yes, it has your name on it. I guess, okay, I'll tell you a funny story. Actually, it's not funny, but looking back, it drives my point home. So when I was working in the call center at this bank, there was a man, probably in his mid to late 20s. He was getting ready to propose to his girlfriend, and he had a credit card. He called in. I think it had like a $15,000 limit on it, and he was up to his balance was up to $13,000. And I looked at the history on it, and he was making minimum payments on it. And so, I mean, he wasn't behind, but he was, and this had gone on for 6 to 8 months of him just making minimum payments on this $13,000 balance with a $15,000 limit. Well, if you know how credit card companies work, they don't like when you do that. And what they'll do is they will knock your limit down. And what they did in his case is they actually knocked his limit down to the $13,000. So he was at the jewelry store, and he tried to make I think it was a $1,500 transaction to buy the ring. Obviously it declined, just given the timing of when the bank did this. Of course, they send out the letter. They have to do that by law. But he probably didn't get it by that point. So he called in, he's like, what the heck, I have a $15,000 limit. I informed him, hey, on this date, the bank decreased your limit, and here's why we did that, for the reasons I mentioned. And he was just irate. He was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you guys are the worst. You're just trying to ruin my life. I don't know why I said that was fun. That's not funny. It goes to show it really is the bank's money, and the borrower is slave to the lender. I certainly hope that nobody is ever in that situation. And of course, there are rewards with using your credit card. I know I talked about in previous videos how I pay my bills out of accounts payable, out of a checking account called accounts payable. But I have plenty of friends that pay all their bills on their credit card because they're going to get the rewards in cash or airline miles or hotel nights. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but here's why I don't do that. Because I worked at this job, the number one or number two call request is lost or stolen cards. It happens all the time, all day, every day. People lose them, they get worn, they get cracked. Guess what? Got to get a new card with a new number. Well, if you got 6 or 7 vendors to go back through, it's just not something I want to do even once a year or twice a year. I give them my routing number and their checking account number, and I don't have to mess with it. But some people think that's worth it because of the rewards they get, and kind of a cost benefit analysis there. To me, it's not worth it, but that's a personal decision. So let's talk about the value of higher education. I know this is kind of a juicy subject, and there's kind of two ends of the spectrum. There is education is an awesome investment and you can never go wrong. And then there's the other end, which is college is a total scam and you should just go into the trades. This is just there's a lot to this. Again, I tend to fall somewhere in the middle. No, I don't think college is a scam. I think there are valuable things you can learn there. But on the other end, I don't agree with higher education at a college or university. No matter what you study is always going to yield a positive result. That's too much sunshine and rainbows for me. That's just not the reality. So, as many of you know, I started out at a community college and then I transferred to a 4-year university and completed my Bachelor of Science in Business Management. I would say I do use a lot of those skills learned because I did end up going into the IT space, and I would say a lot of my IT training was learned on the job, but learning about how the business runs as a whole was actually really insightful. How marketing works, how human resources works, organizational behavior, all that is really interesting stuff. And if I were to have just jumped in and only learned the IT aspect of it, and then went to all these town hall meetings that I've been to over the years, I wouldn't have any idea of what the CEO is talking about. He goes over the quarterly and annual revenue projections, and you're not gonna understand what he's talking about if you're only siloed into IT specific items. And that's true of anyone else in the organization. If you went to school for marketing, you may not fully understand what it is my department does, but it helps to know how to be able to do a few basic things on the computer. So yes, I do think that college and universities do have value. I do, however, think the government's involvement with student loans is definitely driving up the price. I just don't see a foreseeable situation where they're going to get out of it. It does make them it makes the federal government a lot of money being in that business. regardless of what people think, the interest that they make on those loans is, and fees and everything else, it's a lot. I calculated the interest on my loans alone from, I think I had a $32,000 student loan balance, and even paying it off in 5 years, I paid, it was right around $5,000. I mean, it's a lot. I'm equally as big of a fan of trades, and I think that is something that I wish my high school had pushed a little bit more. I went to an awesome high school, but they were very much bent on directing students either towards higher education or the military, and they have to include the military, just being that it's in a military community. I just don't remember a whole lot of talk about the trades, but no, I think, like I said, if you're gonna go to college, I think just like getting out of debt, know your why, know what you want to do. This is the thing I see a lot of young kids get into, like with these campus visits. It's the all lucrative word, or 2 words, college experience. You gotta ask yourself, are those beautiful trees really worth $20,000, $30,000 a year? And again, that's a conservative estimate. You gotta look at your alternatives too. Where is it you want to be? What is going to be the most economical path to get there? And going out of state for college is just asinine. I mean, why on earth would you go to an out-of-state school when you could get the same education, if the same degree program is offered at the state university? I don't understand. Yes, that's all I have on my notes. Of course, I want this to be a dialogue. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm crazy? You could say yes. You could say no. I think with this whole pandemic, I think you're going to see you're starting to see a very large change in how education is going to be delivered. Educational institutions obviously are, a lot of them are very much rooted in their history. Some are more adept to innovation than others, but some things have got to change. And I think change is going to be very big for these institutions if they haven't already. Of course, I want to thank you guys for watching, hearing me rant a little bit. Of course, I want to know what you guys' thoughts are. I hope everyone has a good evening. Take care.